Going on, everyone? John Matrix here. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We're going to be jumping into some more SCP goodness here with the Exploring series. This is another video that's been requested by one of my YouTube members, and this is a follow-up from SCP-2922. This is the Three Moons Initiative, again by the Exploring series. So links will be down below in the description to the original video, without my commentary and reaction, and to the Exploring series channel. Please do me a favor. If you enjoy this video, be sure to give it a like when we go through it. And if you haven't hit that sub button on the Exploring series channel, if you enjoy this content, consider doing so. Show the man some love. You know, he definitely deserves it. He makes a lot of great content for the SCP universe as well as others. If you'd like to join us as I do these reactions live, we are, you know, as I'm doing right now, there's a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube members, benefits, tiers, etc. that I offer. You can get early access to videos, for any kind of reaction requests, Discord only, member channels, etc. So check all that stuff out. If you've been around the channel for a while and decide you want to take your sport to the next level, that is the way to do so. But regardless, we're going to jump into this. Again, this is Three Moons Initiative, which I guess is going to be a continuation off of SCP-2922, Notes from the Under. Which that one, honestly, like it was a fascinating kind of world building story, but left me with a lot of questions at the end. So hopefully some of those questions will be answered in this video. But yeah, with all that said, let's jump into this. So again, this is going to be the Three Moons Initiative by the Exploring series. Time's good. Let's go.
The Three Moons Initiative. In the SCP universe, a number of different secretive groups fight for and protect humanity from the wolves at the door, so to speak, including, of course, the SCP Foundation, the GOC, and even the Church of the Broken God, to a degree. One group that really cares deeply about humanity's fate and works to protect us from quite far away is the Three Moons Initiative.
Interesting, okay.
The fact that they can help us at all is pretty impressive, as they're all dead.
Yeah, I was gonna say, like, yeah, that's from everything from the previous video that's all about stuff in the afterlife. So the fact that they're able to influence anything in our reality from the afterlife, yeah, interesting. Okay.
And they reside in Korbanik, the strange afterlife detailed in SCP-2922.
Which is apparently one of potentially a number, thousands, millions, maybe even infinite amount of different afterlives. And they've established that there's like a council of gods there, and this woman Janet, who was an SCP Foundation member who's died, has you know, gotten on their good side and has become one of their advisors. But for whatever reason, the SCP Foundation has labeled her as hostile and has trained an MTF task force and murdered them to send them into the afterlife to go and get her for whatever reason, which was not made clear in the last video. So maybe, again, that's one of the questions that'll be cleared up in this video.
While knowledge of SCP-2922 will enhance some details about the Three Moons Initiative, it's not strictly necessary.
Okay.
And I'll recap what you need to know as we go.
That I assume a lot of my questions that I want answered will probably not be answered, which is kind of typical. But anyway.
To start with, let's take a look at Korbanik itself again. As detailed in SCP-2922, the Foundation inadvertently stumbled upon a way to communicate with the dead after death, using a Foundation researcher named Janet Spiegel as their guinea pig. Janet had died in a car accident while embedded with an anomalous chip that facilitated communication, and she woke up in the afterlife of Korbanik.
Which that in and of itself is interesting, right? So she was embedded with the chip of some kind, presumably, to give her a somewhat like telepathic, I guess, connection, but it would allow her to transmit her thoughts directly to a telephone line, which I guess maybe is able to be altered in some way, shape, or form. But the fact that she died and, you know, was then her soul, I guess, you know, was transported to the afterlife, that connection remained. So that in and of itself is actually kind of fascinating, which is something that I didn't really kind of pick up or think about in the previous video.
A mysterious realm filled with various creatures, including other humans. The Foundation was overjoyed at the opportunity, but after Janet's repeated requests to speak with her living husband were denied, she stopped supplying the Foundation with information.
Right.
This eventually led to the Foundation's Operation Galahad, where they lied to MTF agents and killed them to send them into Korbanik in order to provide intel on the afterlife
Yep.
and to capture Janet. The operation was not a big success, and that was pretty much it.
Mm-hmm.
Korbanik is not exactly a hospitable place, and although the dead people that get sent there typically can't die again, there are some unfortunate fates that can be encountered there. Massive primates called striders can pick you up and feed you to the Witch Queen of Bogle Mountain, which you'll survive but be deeply traumatized when you pass through.
Yeah, I mean, like I said in the previous video, being stuck in a giant primate digestive system for a few months probably would not be a very fun experience.
You can fall into the organic chitin sea, being lost forever in an ocean of organs and organic tissue. You can be frozen by large mechanical frogs to negative 20 degrees Celsius, leading to a painful recovery. As mentioned, though, there are plenty of humans in Korbanik, and while most of them congregate in various small villages as they carry through their afterlife, others have organized into something a bit more. The Three Moons Initiative was formed roughly 14,000 years ago in Korbanik, as the first true organization of humanity in the afterlife. While existence in Korbanik is often fraught with danger, especially for newcomers, living without death does have its advantages, allowing humans there to perpetually expand and develop. From where the Foundation's standing, the Three Moons Initiative possesses a disproportionately high military strength compared to their own.
Yeah.
There is a drawback, though, as organic matter can never leave Korbanik, meaning that any interaction the Initiative has with our world is done through drones and other remote-controlled machines sent through a portal located on the dark side of the moon.
Interesting.
It seems that if the Initiative truly wanted to cause problems for us, they could, and so a treaty was formed between the Foundation and the Initiative, although it's admittedly shaky. The reason for that is partly because one of the military leaders of the Three Moons Initiative is, of course, Janet Spiegel,
Yeah.
who is especially vocal in her opposition to the Foundation. Fortunately, though,
It's funny how it seems like her entire reason for not liking the Foundation is simply because they wouldn't let her talk to her husband. You know what I mean? And I mean, there's a lot of different ways where that could have been, remedied, right? She could have literally just said, hey, I just want to tell my husband about this afterlife, and then you guys can kill him and he can join me. You know what I'm saying? That kind of a situation could have happened. I don't know, but there could have been a lot of different ways that things could have been played out, and I don't know. It's interesting how that is what made her seemingly from the previous story not like the Foundation, and why the Foundation is labeled as a hostile being.
the Three Moons Initiative primary goal is to protect and safeguard humanity from all threats. We'll get to exactly how they do this by looking at a few SCPs in a bit. They also serve to judge the sins of all the deceased that enter Korbanik, a process carried out by their Perdition Committee. Depending on a majority vote, the deceased individual is either punished or rewarded for their deeds in life.
Interesting.
Although I can't imagine that the process always gets things right.
Right.
The leader of the Three Moons Initiative currently.
Well, and like also, right, like if you only live once in what our currently reality is, but then you go to the afterlife where you would presumably be there forever, right? Like, what kind of sentencing would you have? You know what I'm saying? Like, is that something that could change? Would good behavior in whatever their version of afterlife punishment be allow you to go to the Elysium Fields, which was something that was mentioned in the previous, video, where I would presume that would be where uh, you know the good people get to go, and vice versa. If you go to the Elysium Fields and you do something bad, could you be sent to you know, I guess whatever purgatory, Tartarus, etc. would be. And it's like, I don't know, it's a strange concept to think about, right? Like you have 80 to 100 years of life on our reality on, you know, Earth here that judges potentially an eternal afterlife, you know, in whatever this realm is now in Corbinic.
Is also its original founder, the Eternal President, Gerard Sebastian Niang. The eternal part is not to be taken literally, as there is a planned election in a couple thousand years.
Hmm.
Gerard was born in
Couple
Senegal
thousand.
in an alternate timeline of Earth, and worked for that timeline's version of the SCP Foundation as a site director. In the year 2329, the Sarkic cults in that timeline summoned something that they thought was their leader, Grand Karcist Ion, but was decidedly not, resulting in an impending end of the world scenario.
Rep.
The world had 5 years of warning as the creature moved towards Earth, with no plan to stop it. Gerard decided to try and do something about it the day before it arrived after watching the series finale of Sesame Street, in which Elmo expresses fear over the end of the world. Since all of the Foundation's files
Cutting it a little close there, aren't you? Waiting like a day before?
had been declassified by this point, he stumbled across the file for SCP-3319, a global occult coalition project that could basically teleport the Earth to a far-off solar system in the Crab Nebula. This was all pretty theoretical though, of course, as it had never been used, and diagnostics predicted it only had a 30% chance of success.
I guess 30% is better than
Breaking
none.
protocol, Gerard managed to activate the device, and needless to say, it didn't work as planned.
Yeah.
Instead of going to another solar system, Earth was taken to Corbinic, killing everyone on Earth in the process. The Striders, the giant primate natives of Corbinic, launched an attack on the recent arrivals, and Gerard rallied the remnants of the Foundation, along with the central government of their Earth and other armed factions to fight in the First Harvesting War.
Interesting.
Niang became a hero to the remaining humans of his Earth, and also gained the respect of a local entity named Jalakara, who also despised the Striders. Jalakara is an incredibly powerful reality bender, basically akin to a god in Corbinic, with the appearance of a gigantic spider with a human face and beard. Jalakara resides in a fortress located thousands of light years above Corbinic, known as the Impenetrable. Having a partnership with Jalakara resulted in the creation of the Lunar Dawn Initiative, their name until after the Second Harvesting War, when it became the Two Moons Initiative. Presumably, that other timeline of Earth became the first moon near Corbinic, until another one showed up, resulting in the Second Harvesting War, and then eventually a third showed up during the Third Harvesting War. At this point, the group became known as the Three Moons Initiative.
What do you know?
Currently, Gerard acts as the human leader of both the military and the civilians of the initiative. Many of their local media outlets accuse him of abusing his authoritarian power for personal gain. So, to assuage these concerns, he undergoes annual humbling sessions. These sessions are top secret and carried out by Jalakara himself, involving excruciating physical and psychological torture. After these humbling sessions were put into place, media outlets have accused the president of ineptitude and indecisiveness. So clearly the sessions did something.
Yeah, I mean, that also goes to show that you're not going to please everyone, right? They're going to accuse you of one thing some way or another, and then, you know, if you get replaced, that'll then happen to the replacement as well.
Aside from the president, 13 other individuals are allowed to directly address Jalakara, and they make up the Central Cabal.
Okay.
The Central Cabal is granted a small portion of Jalakara's power, but they primarily act as Jalakara's advisors for any interactions with humanity. Jalakara uses its abilities to provide the initiative with energy and resources, and in return, the initiative worship it as a deity, carry out its wishes, and allow it the final say in all administrative matters.
Interesting.
The presence of a deity in
So again, I wonder, as I've talked about in previous SCP videos, the whole relationship of gods and they get their power from being worshipped, and then he's granting power to those that are worshiping him in return for them worshiping him. Like it's an interesting kind of uh interesting relationship, I guess, in a symbiotic way. So, but I wonder again how much of that grants him his power. Did he have a lot of power beforehand? Because it seemed like before these Earths and humanity came here, he was already a very powerful being, and that maybe he was only kept in check by the Striders, and that witch or whatever that mountain's name is, who I guess maybe is the leader of the Striders. And then he saw an opportunity to gain more power with humanity at his side, I don't know. But interesting.
Worship it as a deity, carry out its wishes, and allow it the final say in all administrative matters. The presence of a deity in charge of the initiative is part of why the Foundation really doesn't trust the group, as this is a non-human running a group that apparently has humanity's best interests at heart. Let's look at how they might take care of humanity's best interests, though, by looking at a few anomalies they've been responsible for. One avenue they've approached is the continued moral safeguarding of humanity, as they're consistently concerned with the sins of those that die and enter Korbanik. To better guide humanity's morals, they sent us SCP-3922, a small metal cylinder with 3 moons engraved on one side and the word reassurance on the other. It was found by the Foundation at a garage sale in Kenosha, Wisconsin, where the owner described it as a sort of morality filter for the TV. When placed within 1 meter of a television set or computer, the cylinder will alter the contents of any video played. Additional characters or elements will appear in the footage, typically armed with high-powered energy-based weaponry and other futuristic equipment, and will punish any and all crimes committed during the video.
Interesting.
The severity of the punishment is always in line with the rating of the rest of the content, however, so Winnie the Pooh won't be decapitated for ruining Rabbit's garden.
Right.
At the end of each modified video, 3 moon symbols will be shown, along with the initiative's slogan.
That's just creepy. You are watched, you are protected, you are loved. Like, that's a little out there, brother. I mean, I guess some people could see that as being comforting, but I see that as creepy.
You are watched, you are protected, you are loved. Let's look at some specific examples then. A modified copy of the animated film Pinocchio showed a tactical squadron of advanced troops arriving on Pleasure Island in dropships, transforming the transformed donkeys back into children, using devices labeled Tactical Undonkification Ordnance.
Tactical
The
undonkification
coachman,
ordnance.
responsible for tricking and taking the children, is instantly vaporized by a bombardment of energy weapon fire.
It's interesting, right? So it's almost like they're saying that any kind of movie you watch or whatever is an alternate reality. And then when you go into this, when you put this device next to it, it's allowing Task Force from the 3 Moons Initiative to jump into these alternate realities and punish wrongdoings in these movies. You know what I'm saying? Like, so it's almost confirming, again, pataphysics, that these are other realities, that just happen to be playing out while you're watching them, and then maybe they disappear, from existence when you turn the TV off or whatever. But I don't know. I find that kind of fascinating.
Lampwick is taken to a substance abuse rehabilitation center. Monstro the whale is disintegrated by an orbital energy weapon. The Blue Fairy is arrested for unlicensed reanimation of plant tissue, and Pinocchio is informed by a tactical child psychiatry associate that real boyhood is subjective. In an altered copy of The Dark Knight, the Joker is killed by several combat drones utilizing plasma-based weaponry. Bruce Wayne is taken into custody for 39 separate counts of extortion, and the film ends with initiative troops taking control of Gotham City until law and order can be restored.
Interesting.
In a copy of the film Space Jam, it is presented as a biographical drama of the life of Michael Jordan, with no cartoon characters present. At one point, though, a character mentions a news story in which a corrupt intergalactic amusement park was destroyed by initiative troops, but Michael dismisses the story as ridiculous. As a particularly graphic example, a copy of the 1975 film Salo was used, which involves 4 wealthy men in fascist Italy who kidnap 18 young men and women and perform unspeakable torture on them. In the altered copy, the 4 men are quickly terminated by sniper fire, and the footage cuts to the desert of Corbinic, where the 4 now dead men are picked up by initiative ships and taken to a facility where they are submerged in tanks filled with gel, a process that seems to be extremely painful. The remaining 8 hours of footage simply shows the men in the tanks, their faces distorted in pain and agony, where they will apparently be kept for quite some time. The ending card is also altered in this footage, instead reading, "You have been warned." The initiative have become the judges, juries, and executioners of the afterlife, and want to warn humanity to live good lives, or there will be consequences. Speaking of punishing fascists, the 3...
I guess a big question of that would be, why does that matter? You know what I'm saying? So again, like, let's break this down, I guess, and think about it rationally, right? Like, we're on this planet Earth and in this reality for, again, humans live between, 80 to 100, sometimes even a little longer than 100 years, but around that, So we're only on this planet for that amount of time. We have one life here, in this SCP story. And then when we die, we go to this Corbinic afterlife where presumably we'll be there for the rest of eternity, until the universe collapses or whatever, maybe even after, but who knows? And it's interesting that what you do in your, real life, quote unquote, has any bearing on what you would do in the afterlife, because again, you have eternity to experience and change, essentially, right? So the question for me would be like, why does that really matter? There must be, in order for, I guess, those actions to matter, there would have to be some kind of effect for it in the afterlife. I guess maybe, like, I'm trying to think, you know, they do enough bad things, they release the Scarlet King. The Scarlet King starts devouring all realities and could potentially come after this afterlife reality and devour it. Something along those lines. You know what I'm saying? Like, there would have to be some kind of, like, in my mind, anyway, some kind of reasoning why this organization would be so, I guess, determined to monitor and control and punish the actions of people in real life when they get to the afterlife, to the point where they're like going into these various realities with technology, killing people, and then snatching them up immediately in the afterlife for their punishment. You know what I'm saying? So I don't know. It's interesting, but it makes me question as to why that matters. Because if there is no bearing, like if it doesn't really have any effect on the afterlife in any kind of way, shape, or form, then what really would it matter? Other than, I guess, they just want to have some kind of law and order established for a civilization in the afterlife, so that when people die, they know that there is a certain kind of expectation and rule to happen in the afterlife, but then again, right, like, if that were the case, wouldn't it be a situation where it's like, okay, let me just live my life and have my fun while I'm in, actual life reality. And then when I die, give me a chance to conform to what this eternal rule is going to be afterwards. I don't know.
Moon's initiative seems to be especially concerned with that, as they
Hey, what's
also
up,
sent
Howard?
us SCP-25.
Yeah, we're doing Three Moons Initiative. We did SCP-2922 earlier, so we're going on to Three Moons. But yeah, we're getting into Corbinic stuff here for what you had requested.
78. 2578 is a series of phenomena that has resulted in the deaths of at least 100 humans since 1995. These individuals all share some common traits, as they were political figures intending to engage in activities such as ethnic cleansing, government-sponsored slavery,
Yikes.
war crimes, and establishment of absolute control of the national press, media, and religion. All of these individuals also possessed the full capabilities to carry out these political activities had they not died. 72 hours prior to each of their deaths, the individual will receive an email from a sender.
Sic Semper Tyrannis. That's a Roman saying, if I remember correctly. Something about I don't remember what the phrase is supposed to be in English. I want to say it has something to do with what is it? In times of peace, prepare for war. I think it's along those lines, something like that, but I could be mistaken.
Listed only as the three moon symbol, and the text will always be consistent. It opens with the Latin phrase Sic Semper Tyrannis, meaning thus always to tyrants.
No, thus always to tyrants. Okay, I was completely wrong.
And the subject's latitude and longitude coordinates. The first message will contain the number 144, and the text, "I never miss my mark. Abdicate and you will live," in a number of different languages. Every 30 minutes, another email will be received, with the number decreased by 1 until it reaches 0.
That's countdown.
The subject can stop this countdown by resigning from their post, or stopping the offending crimes, or surrendering to a war crimes tribunal or resistance movement, or, of course, suicide. If not, however, when the countdown reaches 0, a hole will appear throughout the individual's body, starting at the top of their head and ending at their groin, inevitably killing them. This execution occurs regardless of where the individual is located, with no damage to any of the surrounding area. After the death of the individual, or if they manage to stop the event from occurring, an email will be sent to a number of people associated with the individual, typically informing them of the event and encouraging them to abandon their fear of tyranny, and letting them know that the Three Moons Initiative will always watch, protect, and love them. In 2016, the Foundation managed to track down the machine responsible, a metallic spacecraft about 3 meters in length that travels around Earth's atmosphere to carry out the events.
Interesting.
It uses its tail to fire a projectile that is not currently understood by the Foundation to execute the individuals. I'm sure the execution is just the start of their problems, though, once these individuals arrive in Corbinic to be judged. So it would seem that the Three Moons Initiative primarily care about us not especially due to an interest in our prolonged existence,
Right.
but rather that we live good, moral lives.
Right.
So
The question
we
is
avoid
why,
punishment in the afterlife. The punishment that they themselves will carry out. This lends a very weird, authoritarian feel to the initiative, who enforce a moral life based on their ideas of morality, backed by a deific spider reality bender. There is definite cause for concern by the Foundation, especially since the Three Moons can't seem to handle every problem in their own dimension, let alone ours. SCP-3768 is a ritual involving 3.7 grams of zinc, at least 400 grams of table salt, no more than 5 grams of silver, and 7 honeybee carcasses. If placed around a civilian FM radio in a specific formation within 500 kilometers of Baltimore, Maryland, the radio will be able to access an anomalous radio station. The station identifies itself as Three Moons Public Radio and features a constant stream of news and editorials from Corbinick. The host has allegedly never gone off the air for the last 300 years.
All I'm getting in my mind is that radio station in Fallout 3 with the guy that just is going on talking about. I can't remember his name. Something dog. I can't remember his name to save my life right now, but that's what I'm picturing in my mind.
And identifies as a 27-year-old female of French Senegalese descent named Julie Niang.
Okay.
Whether or not she's related to Gerard Niang isn't stated.
Probably.
Examples of a few recordings show Julie wishing a region or town named Dry's Edge good morning at 8 a.m. Old Eastern Standard Time, and says that it's 62 degrees out, so wear a light jacket if headed to the Meat Tree Market. A piece of news discusses the Elephant King of the Marble Hall, who announced that he's temporarily sober for the first time in 300 years. In regards to the 30,000 captives of his so-called meat orgies, the Elephant King responded with, "This was never a part of the plan. The Soma was tainted from the start. None of us can stop. I cannot stop. I am scared. Please help us." In an interview with what seems to be John Lennon, he discusses his song Imagine and the irony of the afterlife of Corbinick, which is both heaven and hell at the same time, and contains a few trillion countries, all locked in a war with one another. When asked about the Strider situation, he mentions that he's got a song about it on his upcoming album, titled Dead Monkey, Good Monkey, which is a particularly angry track. He notes that the Striders gave peace a chance, but then ate it like everything else. In another news story, the Central Cabal unanimously passed the mandatory Pan-Corbinese Human Sterilization Act, which would result in the forced sterilization of everyone on Corbinick, preventing them from having any more children.
What?
This resulted in plenty of controversy, as some believed the right to conceive children was inalienable. But the reasoning for the act was because children born in Corbinick are mortal, unlike those born outside of Corbinick. When a mortal person dies in Corbinick, they are sent to the sister universe, aka our universe, where they are then immortal. Basically, it's a reversal of situations, and the president.
That's actually very fascinating. So children born on Corbinick, when they die, are sent over here where they're essentially immortal. And our reality is their afterlife. But people born in our reality here, when they die, are sent there, and that reality is their afterlife. And they're immortal. That's pretty fascinating.
The president says that although Corbinick is designed for immortals, our universe is not. This means that for those that become immortal in our universe, they'll either end up floating through space in some sort of unending nightmare, or end up in Foundation custody, neither of which is a happy, free scenario.
Couldn't they, again, because they have a treaty with the Foundation, right? Could they not, as part of that treaty, work out some kind of deal where the Foundation, should they find these kids, take them and find a way to send them back to Corbinick, right? You know, like if Corbinick is able to send drones and other things like that into our reality and back. So you would think that they would be able to do something along those lines, right?
The Three Moons press secretary.
I mean, he said anything organic from Corbinick can't make it over there, but if they're born over here, would they be able to go back to Corbinick, I guess? That would be the question.
Secretary Lyndon B. Johnson assures that the sterilization process is painless, non-invasive, and doesn't affect libido. So that's nice. The real breaking news comes next, though, with the announcement that the Witch Queen of Bogle Mountain died of liver failure.
Oh.
This came as quite a shock, as the initiative and residents of Corbinick all assumed her to be immortal. Her last words were reportedly translated to be, "I find food planet." It's believed by the Initiative that the Witch Queen will go the same way as that of Corbinic-born humans, meaning she'll end up in our universe.
Great.
The Initiative sends the Foundation a note, letting them know that at some point in the coming months, the reality warping 10-kilometer tall immortal primate known as the Witch Queen is going to enter a trajectory in our universe en route to Earth. If attacked before arrival, there's a negligible chance of neutralization, but if attacked when she's at all close to Earth, this chance drops to 0. They also note that she's aware of SCP-3319, which the Foundation could use to try and travel to another solar system, but she's going to smash it first to prevent that.
So is that like the cycle of the planets going to the Three Moons Initiative, right? Because again, the guy they talked about at the beginning of this, who's the president of the Three Moons Initiative, his world, his Earth in that reality was about to be destroyed by some kind of, creature that was summoned to them by Sarkics. And then he came across this thing to teleport them to what's supposed to be another solar system in the Crab Nebula that sent them to Corbinic. And then another Earth showed up, and another Earth showed up, hence that being now called the Three Moons Initiative. So if we were to do that, would we then go there and join them as the fourth moon and be the Fourth Moon Initiative? Right? Is that what would happen? And is it like some kind of cycle of things like that happening? Which then would lead me to believe, like, is there something with the spider deity doing that and trying to bring other Earths and more humanity there to worship him, to then empower him more, or it more, whatever,
The precogs in the Initiative's R&D predict a best possible outcome of losing only 89.5% of humanity.
Only.
To reassure the Foundation, they say that they've fought 5 wars against the Witch Queen and her Striders, and won 2 of them. They also note that this is the angriest they've seen Jalakara in a millennium, as his grudge with the Witch Queen predates multicellular life. This is not incredibly reassuring, though, as it begs the question of why Jalakara hasn't dealt with such a hated enemy beforehand.
Probably because he can't.
The note ends by them
power.
saying that even if the Witch Queen does cause their extinction, drinks are on them when we all arrive in Corbinic.
I guess.
You are watched, you are protected, and win or lose, you are loved. Well, yes, yet another eldritch entity on the way to Earth to wipe out all life. So nothing.
Just really another day in paradise.
The interesting thing to take away from this one, though, is that if someone is born in Corbinic, they'll eventually die and become immortal in our world. This explains the old man that the Foundation stumbled upon in their incursions into Corbinic, who they witnessed dying, despite everyone seeming to be immortal. Another takeaway is that there are many different universes which contain Earth that all connect to Corbinic, which is why it's stated that there are trillions of countries in Corbinic. However,
which makes you wonder, like, is that some kind of like central universe or reality,
What isn't quite as clear is which one of these universes a person goes to if they die in Corbinic, or do they somehow go to all of them? Corbinic is a really interesting setting, which by itself doesn't have a great deal to do with the SCP Foundation and the anomalous situation on Earth. The Three Moons Initiative, however, adds a nice touch to things to connect the 2 dimensions, as they not only care about our human population, but every human population across the multiverse. They want us all to live good, moral lives so that we can someday die, come to Corbinic, be judged, and fall under the Three Moons' purview. As time goes on, the Initiative is going to grow larger and larger and become more technologically proficient, not to mention their patron deity, who has his own thoughts on the matter. Who's to say they won't eventually decide to save some time and just wipe us all out, so we can immediately join them in Corbinic, or perhaps do something worse. Well, it's always nice to think there's some purely altruistic groups out there that just want to keep us safe. The Foundation is certainly not convinced that the Three Moons Initiative is one of them.
Yeah, I don't know. There's definitely a lot of questions. We're getting a quote here at the end? Okay. We're not asking you to believe this story. Indeed, skepticism is a sign of a healthy mind. All of us were like you once, with all our biases in science and religions, lack thereof. You may keep your preconceived notions for now. All we ask is that you remember what you have read here. When your time comes, when you close your eyes in this world and open them to the 3 moons and a sky of green, you remember who your guardian angels are. And join us. You are watched, you are protected, you are loved. I'm sorry, that's a creepy ass saying. So, I mean, yeah, none of my questions from 29, 22 were really answered about, you know, oh, excuse me, why the SCP Foundation has labeled Janet as a hostile being, why they're really after her, you know, etc., etc. But all it really does is kind of pose more questions about the setting and about the 3 Moons Initiative in general. Again, like, what really, other than, I guess, for them to keep a civilized society, you know, with some kind of rule of law, and like things just don't evolve down into just, you know, chaos or whatever, that, yeah, they want you to live a good certain life by a good certain moral code that aligns with their moral code, so that when you die, you can just join and be a contributing member to their society, right? But other than that, it's like, what really does it matter what you would do in your real life here, because you're just going to have an eternity to evolve and change and, you know, think about your notions of life and what life really is and what you want to do and experience, etc., etc. So, like, on the one hand, I can understand, I guess, that, you know, that point of view, but on the other hand, what does it really matter, you know? But yeah, it also, like I said, seems interesting that the 3 Moons Initiative are essentially 3 different Earths that have been transported to this alternate reality of Korbanik. It's also very interesting that it seems to me like there's some kind of grudge between the spider deity and this primate witch entity, and they are both of somewhat potentially equal power, not being able to destroy the other, and so it makes me wonder if, you know, the spider deity is not trying to bring other Earths there with more humans to worship him, to give him more power, kind of a situation, in order to defeat this entity. And then if so, what is his goal going to be after that? You know, what are things like that going to look like? You know, etc. But I guess the big, you know, interesting reveal is that, yeah, children that are born on Korbanik are mortal, and when they die, they enter our reality as immortals. So, I mean, it makes me wonder about, like, some of the other entities, like, I don't know. It makes me wonder, like, you know, the Cactus verse with Adam LSM, you know, is like Korbanik actually kind of like this central universe, and that maybe like some of those entities, that's where they were from, and then they died and now they've been over there, and that's why, like, because Cain and Abel are offspring of him, that's why they also live forever essentially in our realities, you know, are they actually really from this other place, etc. And maybe if that is true, like the Gate Guardian, what he's guarding, maybe that's another way into Korbanik. Who knows? You know, I'm just like tying different universes and canons together in my head for my own like head canon. But yeah, interesting story. If there's any more stuff with Korbanik and, you know, 3 Moons Initiative in this canon, I would definitely be interested to keep following up with it and to learn more about it. But yeah, that was the Exploring series and the 3 Moons Initiative. Links will be down below in the description as always, to the original video without my commentary interaction, and to the Exploring series channel. So please do me a favor, if you enjoyed this video, be sure to give it a like, and if you haven't hit that sub button on the Exploring Series channel. Be sure to do so if you enjoy the man's content. If you'd like to join us as I do these reactions live with my YouTube members, as I'm doing right now, there is a join button underneath the video, as well as a link in the description to the YouTube membership benefits and tiers that I offer. You can get early access to videos, priority any kind of reaction requests, sub Discord channels, etc. So if you've been around the channel for a while, so I want to take support to the next level, that is the way to do it. But thank you guys for watching. Hope you're all having yourselves a wonderful day. We'll see you guys on the next one.